So good morning, everybody, and it was lovely to chat to everybody earlier on this morning. And it's really lovely to be here and to be reminded of faces and to put names to faces again. And of course, I recognise so many of you. I've been involved in the Conul ERASMUS Staff Mobility Programme since the beginning, so I get the really nice job of giving this overview of our programme this morning. My name is Orla Nic Aodha, and hopefully some of you remember me from the weeks you spent in Dublin. I was going to talk a little bit today about the reasons for establishing the programme, and then a little bit about the geographic spread of the participants over the years, and then the evaluation of the programme, I suppose, and most importantly for us, what we've learned from the feedback we've received over the years. So why did we establish the programme? I suppose through our own national networks in Ireland, most specifically, of course, Conul. Those of us working in institutions across Dublin and neighbouring counties were aware of the high volume of requests we were each receiving from staff in libraries across Europe to spend some time in Ireland. And we loved, of course, welcoming visitors and really valued the input of their experience. But we were also aware of the high workloads associated for us on an individual institutional level with receiving multiple visitors throughout the year. And we thought it would be a really good idea to pilot a library staff mobility week between us. And by us, I mean DCU, DIT as it was then, back in 2017, now TU Dublin, Maynooth University, the National Library of Ireland, the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, Trinity College Dublin, and University College Dublin. So it began with I suppose with us in Ireland making connections between ourselves in a way, and importantly for us, it enabled us to contribute to the Conul strategic plan, and more specifically the strategic objective of Conul being a platform for an international presence by valuing links with consortia and organisations across the world and seeking to develop these to the mutual benefit of staff and users. And then on a practical level, it allowed us to pool our resources, financial and staff resources, and provide a very strong programme that I suppose we would have found difficult to manage on our own as single institutions. We ran our first pilot in 2017 and continued in 2018 and 19. And here are a couple of pictures of our first group in 2017 enjoying a meal in the really beautiful 1592 restaurant in Trinity College Dublin, and a photo there of the group on the last day in DCU. We developed a 5-day programme across 7 institutions with each day having a theme. And as some of you know, of course, the themes were library storage and space, information and digital literacies, customer service and user experience, enabling research, cultural heritage, and libraries and change. So packed programme. And I suppose the idea then that each institution would host a half day or a full day, and would do so with a particular theme in mind. The host libraries would begin each day by sharing their expertise, and all of the participants would each give a presentation over the course of the week. And of course, as you know, we asked participants to choose a preferred theme in advance, and when or where they presented would depend on their chosen theme. Here on this slide in green, you can see the geographic spread of the participants over the 3 years. So really good. We've had 15 countries across Europe represented and 63 participants over the 3 years. We know it's a very popular week. We always have a lot more applications, I suppose, than we can accommodate. 11 Irish librarians have participated themselves in the week-long programme, and 58 Irish librarians have presented during the week-long event over the 3 years. And as the programme evolved, we invited librarians across Ireland, not just Dublin, to speak, as of course the expertise is spread across the country. And so it evolved, I suppose, into more of a national event, which is only right, of course, because we're a national organisation. And you can see from this slide, I don't know if it means anything, but that Erasmus Week in Dublin is very popular indeed in the United Kingdom, Lithuania, Poland, Czech Republic, and Spain. So I don't know if I need to say any more about that, but it's interesting. The social aspect of the programme, of a programme such as this, I don't think can ever be underestimated. Conul mentioned there all of us coming together in Limerick for our real life conference this year. We've had some wonderful events over the years, and some great friendships have been formed, and the participants meet up socially themselves during the week, of course, before and after, outside of the official programme, and of course a lot of them have kept in touch. And this is a picture of the group in 2018 in the Mansion House, when Micheál Mac Donnchadh, the Lord Mayor of Dublin at the time, hosted an evening reception for the group. And over the years, the visitors have been able to visit exhibitions in the National Library, for example, the wonderful Yeats exhibition. As mentioned, we had dinner in the 1592 restaurant. We've listened to Irish traditional music in the pubs afterwards. We've had walking tours of Dublin, trips to Dunleary and Howth. And of course, a lot of the participants took the opportunity the weekend before or after the visit to visit the sites across Ireland. And I just want to show you one more photo before I talk a little bit about the evaluation and feedback, because this is the 2019 cohort visiting Maynooth University, and I just didn't want that group to feel left out today. So there they all are. We asked all of the participants to fill in an evaluation form on the last day or very shortly afterwards, and I'll speak now on that initial evaluation. Catherine will talk later on in the morning about more recent feedback we've received, which I suppose will examine the longer term benefits of the programme. But for the initial evaluation form, I suppose there was a qualitative and a quantitative aspect of that form, and I'll focus on the qualitative feedback today. But just a quick note before I say that, suffice to say that 100% of the participants, when asked about the quality of the programme, meeting their expectations, all either agreed or strongly agreed that it was excellent. The only single exception to this every year is the catering. And this is the only area where we receive a satisfactory score, and we've come to realise that Irish people eat too much bread, and this is reflected in the feedback, and we try our best to vary this now, but I think potatoes and bread just seem to be our downfall in Ireland, no matter how hard we try. I suppose it's the open comments and the feedback that are most useful to us in the committee, and every year there's a lot to digest, which is brilliant. And of course, we like to take it all on board. And here on the screen are some of the comments over the years. So in 2017, you can see, for example, very good to have a WhatsApp group, great idea, very helpful, advice on sightseeing and directions. In 2018, when we asked what they liked best, the participants, what they liked best about the week, we received the following: the opportunity to hear about challenges and opportunities that colleagues across Europe are finding in their own libraries, great practical down-to-earth advice, the networks formed, the variety of themes and subjects was a great advantage of the course. And in 2019, I thoroughly enjoyed hearing what other libraries are doing in terms of information literacy. It gave me at least 3 new angles to approach our patrons. Feedback received from 2017 noted that it would be very useful to have information on locations in advance of arrival in Dublin and more detailed information on each location. And I suppose we realised, partly due to the high cost of accommodation in Dublin city centre, that a lot of participants were staying in the outskirts of the city and coming to locations from all directions and relying heavily on public transport. So while a lot of the venues were within walking distance, the starting point for many of the participants was not the city centre. We also know from feedback that public transport in Dublin can be very confusing for visitors. So a booklet with the detailed information on locations, a map for each day, information on travel was sent in advance to participants in 2018. And the feedback that year also suggested that it would be really valuable to include Irish librarians as participants. So that was included in the programme the following year. Of course, huge amounts of informal learning happens throughout the week. And of course, of great benefit for us on the committee is that we get to hear all of the presentations from our colleagues across Europe, but also the presentations given by our Irish colleagues, gaining valuable, I suppose, insights into our own sector and other libraries in Ireland. And there are limited opportunities, in a way, I suppose, for us to do that, other than the annual conference sometime. So we found that to be hugely beneficial. As I said, participants also mentioned that a walking tour of Dublin would be a great way to get to know the city. And Joanna Archbold, who was actually a participant who happened to be taking part in the week, obliged the following year on the first evening. Feedback from 2018 suggested that circulation of presentations alongside the photos and bios of the participants before arriving in Dublin would be useful. And I just noticed this morning that some of you who signed in early were holding your photos and bios from the time you spent here, which was great. And I suppose it added to the workload of the committee and to the workload of the participants. But we thought that was a really excellent idea. I think it also helps participants to get to know each other in advance, but also helps those whose English is not their first language. And we're aware as well from feedback, and I suppose I'm probably doing it again this morning, that Irish people speak very quickly. So what have we learned? We've learned that WhatsApp was a big success. We set it up on arrival in 2017, but after that, it was set up in advance. It meant the participants were put in contact with each other before arriving in Dublin. It did mean asking for mobile phone numbers and so on, but with 1,000 messages across the WhatsApp groups to date, we feel it was very worthwhile. We would say do not underestimate the paperwork involved for all in running a program like this. It's never too soon to advertise or to circulate information. The sooner the better, and to start the promotion as early as possible. And there are a lot of forms. There are application forms and flight bookings and booking accommodation and forms to get stamped on arrival and on departure. And a lot of you then have forms to fill in on arrival home. We learned that collaboration is key. The organisation by committee helps to spread the workload. We share that workload in the organisation of speakers, liaison with local ERASMUS offices, the organisation of catering and so on. And we've been very lucky. We've had the administrative support of Michelle Latimer over the years, and this has really been invaluable. We've learned that the first institution, the first library on the programme, will have an additional workload in relation to form filling and preparing the delegate badges and so on for the week. And we would highly recommend that the first institution should have an ERASMUS office on site so that confirmation of attendance can be easily signed off on. We also think about who will host on the last day. DCU, my own institution, tends to host on the last day in Dublin, as it's the closest to the airport, and it makes it easier for the participants. And for those of you planning on organising a week like this, we would stress how important it is to work with the ERASMUS offices in your home institutions. We as a group have received invaluable support from them on programming, funding and admin support with iMobility. With regards to the accommodation, it's worked well, leaving it to participants to organise themselves. They can determine what suits them best based on what funding they have available. But as mentioned, it's helpful to provide guides and so on, and it removes, I suppose, a burden from the organising committee. So in conclusion, I suppose we on the committee have really enjoyed organising the Dublin Erasmus week. We have learned so much from each other and from our visitors, and we hope to be back in person very soon. So thank you and Gura Mohagat.